final topic. So I've always been quite the cartoon connoisseur, I would say. I mean, I say that as if I've seen tons and tons and tons of cartoons. And though I've seen many, I certainly can't say I've seen them all. But I do quite enjoy a bunch of the classics that are like required cartoon viewing, if you're gonna say you enjoy cartoons. Now, in this case, I want to do a retrospective on my time with one of those cartoon series to me that are required viewing, and that is Looney Tunes. So those are the classic Warner Brothers cartoons starring characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Tweety Taz, and like, you know, I can't list them all because that'll just be a waste of a bunch of time, and we're already looking at the longest podcast I've ever made. But you know, you get the idea. Like, if you look at any picture, you'll see like a compilation of them. You'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. Now, I was born in the year 2000, so I obviously missed all these cartoons coming out. But I did get to see them after the fact through channels like Boomerang. That's another topic that I think would be fun to do one day. The Boomerang retrospective, which might be also a Hanna-Barbera retrospective, because that's the channel that I watched the most when I was a kid. I watched most of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, but I digress. So, you know, I've been watching Looney Tunes shorts on Boomerang, and from the Looney Tunes Golden Collection series that I've been collecting since around like 2005 or 6 or so. And you know, I distinctly remember getting the first collection. It was the rare gift from my grandfather on my dad's side. He's always been more of a money person for birthdays and Christmas, so actually getting a gift from him, I mean, the same was true about my uncle that from the same side of the family that I talked about in the first episode of this podcast. It was a special thing, regardless. That collection is probably the way I watched the cartoons for the most part. The first collection had a Bugs Bunny disc, it had a Daffy Duck disc, and then the last two discs were like a mishmash of like different characters. And you know, I remember, like, I looked at the list of the cartoons before this, and like, I mean, just looking at even the first disc, right? The Bugs disc that one's probably my favorite because it's got a whole list of cartoons. I mean, Rabbit Seasoning is a great Bugs, Daffy, and Elmer short. I'm pretty sure they're called like the Hunting Trilogy. Rabbit apostrophe S kin, not rabbit skin, but rabbit's kin, with Pete Puma. His like only appearance in the classic shorts is one of my personal favorites. I love the way that he talks, and he's just so dumb. Oh, yeah, how many lumps do you want? Oh, 3 or 4. And then Bugs hits him on the head with a man like. It's funny. And then another one, looking at the first disc, there's Big House Bunny. So in that cartoon, Bugs gets thrown in prison, and he messes around. So then you have Yosemite Sam as the prison guard named Schultz. And he just has, like, one of my favorite recurring jokes throughout is the warden of the prison. It's like whenever Yosemite Sam screws something up, the warden always yells, because he's named Schultz. He's like, Schultz! Office! I would yell it here, but that would be terrible for the audio mixing, and I don't want to. I'm sure I already seem like a crazy person because I probably sound like I'm just talking to myself, but I'm really doing this wonderful podcast here to my neighbors. But that's one of my favorite jokes in the cartoon. The Daffy Duck disc also has some pretty good cartoons. Duck-a-Muck, all-time classic. Where Daffy is harassed by the animator, like he gets his whole body erased and then replaced with like he's got like a flower head and this weird like body, and he's on 4 legs and he's got a flag on his tail. That's great. If you haven't watched it, stop. Go watch it. Go watch it right now. It is that much of a classic. Another one on the disc that I love is the Ducksters. And in that cartoon, Porky Pig goes on a radio game show because, it's 1950, so they're on the radio. And Daffy is an antagonizing host where he does things like we literally open the cartoon where Porky is on a conveyor belt and going toward a buzzsaw, which is scary if it were real life, but funny because it's a cartoon. Yeah, the phrase that I think of when I think of that cartoon is like Daffy being, "Oh, I'm sorry. You must pay the penalty." Well, actually, I guess looking at the list more, it was really more of a Daffy and Porky disc, because there's also one of them on here is Porky Chops, which is about Porky Pig trying to chop down a tree that a squirrel lives in, but the squirrel keeps making it so Porky can't chop down the tree. That's a pretty good one. The third disc, so we're getting into one of the mishmash kinds of discs. It's got a few good ones. There's Fast and Furry-is. Furry being the word furry, like a cat or a dog, -os, which is the one Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon of the bunch. Those are always great. They're all silent, which was something that I didn't really like so much as a kid, but the physical humor is good enough to make up for that. There's For Sentimental Reasons, scent being scent like smell, scent, -IMENTAL. That's the one Pepe Le Pew cartoon, which, it is honestly kind of hard going back to watch Pepe after having lived for 19 years, and learning about things like pickup culture. It is a harmless cartoon. I don't really care that much, but I also think you could definitely argue some of the social angle is there with it. The fourth disc has a couple of good, Sylvester and Tweety cartoons. There's Canary Row, and then there's Tweety's SOS, which, let me make sure I'm thinking of the right cartoon before I make this particular description of it. Yeah, okay, so that's the one, my favorite joke in it, and they use this in the marketing. It's Tweety draws a picture of a ship on the sea, because they're, Tweety and Sylvester and Granny are on a cruise ship, and Tweety draws a ship, and he's telling the story about how he's the ship is going back and forth, and oh, it's so wavy, and showing the tilting the picture like that, which gets Sylvester to turn green and literally turn green and get all seasick. That's funny. Oh, there's the Foghorn Leghorn, which I should give special mention to because he's one of my personal favorite characters. I say he's one of my favorite characters. And while I could certainly go over all of the collections and discuss cartoons from each disc, I think you get the picture. I like the cartoons. They all have the slapstick style, and I'm sure I'm going to return to this topic one day. Maybe I'll do a ranking of each cartoon in these collections, or at least each disc. I would certainly enjoy reviewing some of these because they're quality, and plus each cartoon's only 7 minutes long, so I could, I don't have to spend a ton of time reviewing one short as I would for, say, a movie. But I also, I want to talk about the versions of these characters beyond the classic shorts. Although I guess I should point out there will be one exception to this rule if I do decide to go ahead and review these, which is that when I got Volume 4, which is the last one I needed, somehow I just missed that one, it didn't come with the fourth disc, even though it was brand new. So I can't comment on any of the cartoons on that disc, and even if I have the Spotlight collection for it too, which basically comes with the disc that I was missing, but it is missing one cartoon. The Spotlight collection has every single cartoon in it for that disc, the fourth disc. I think it's cat themed, but it's missing one cartoon. Looking beyond the classics, though, there were a few series that I got to catch on TV when I was a kid, and I just kind of want to look at those. I could go back and look at, the thing about a bunch of the really old series, like the Bugs Bunny show, is it's, I've been seeing this channel, it's called Ferris Wheelhouse, with the Looney Tunes critic on it. He's called, these specials paste-ups, and I think that's kind of the idea. It's a paste-up of a bunch of the old shorts, but with little story bits in between. So I don't really care about those. I mean, there's some other series, and I'm sure I'll, like, if I catch them, I'll probably talk about them, but I just want to start with the things that I have already seen as a kid. So, like, as a young child, and I mean a young child, like 3 years old, 4 years old, and, of course it helped that I had a younger sibling, too, during most of its run. As I got older, I was able to watch, of all things, there was the baby Looney Tunes, but it's nothing like the similarly named Muppet Babies. And I mean, in this cartoon, the characters acted like the characters. Like, Daffy was distinctly Daffy, at least the Chuck Jones type Daffy, but he was in diapers, and, the cartoon had a lot less dynamite. But there was also, like, some out of character, like, type stuff. Like, there was a baby Sylvester, but he never went after baby Tweety, which, I mean, I guess makes sense, because, like, that would not be good for the super young demographic of the show, which I was at the time when I saw it, or at least I had a sibling who's that super young demographic, so it was like the closest thing to something that both of us could enjoy, in the sense that it was like relatively similar to good Looney Tunes, and it's something that's appropriate for someone who is, 2 years old. But as much as the characters were just baby-fied versions of the normal characters, I also can't say that it was not uninteresting to see characters who normally don't interact together interact. Like Sylvester and Taz. Like I mentioned Sylvester. Taz is also in it. There's a baby Taz. But it would also be more interesting to me if it was like I could see a cartoon with the adult Taz and the adult Sylvester doing their normal antics. But like I also have to say, looking at the cast, I thought it was super clever to have Granny just be Granny in it, which makes it a little weird for her to babysit a baby Sylvester and Tweety. But that's beside the point, I guess. I also have to point out how irresponsible of a babysitter she is, leaving all these highly articulate anthropomorphic animal babies by themselves. God. Let's see. It was also kind of strange. So, like, there were definitely some weird inclusions for the characters. Like, there's a baby Petunia pig, but there's no baby Porky Pig as a recurring character. And then there was also, like, this one, he seemed like a throwaway character unique to the show. He's, like, named Floyd. I think he's Granny's nephew or something. So suffice it to say, I do remember quite a bit about this show from my childhood, even though it wasn't really all that great. And I also, I looked up some clips to make sure I knew what I was talking about before I came on here, and I was like, I think there was this thing, but I don't know for sure. Probably my favorite of the bunch of recent series, the shorts, they're older, they're in their own category. The next series, though, is Duck Dodgers, which is great. It does not include the in the 24th and a half century part that was in the original cartoon. And, this, to me, this was as simple as you got it. You had Daffy as Duck Dodgers, Porky is the eager young space cadet, Marvin the Martian is the Martian commander, and then, along the way you would see, like, other Looney Tunes characters as needed. Like, there was an episode where Elmer Fudd appears as the Mother Fudd, putting everyone under its control, which is basically to say the episode was about it turning everyone into an Elmer Fudd version of, like, every character into an Elmer Fudd version of themselves, and they would just laugh like he does, and it would just be going, during the entire episode. And I as I was looking at this to make sure, okay, it is called that, right? It is called the Mother Fudd. It's actually I learned that it's a parody of things like the Borg in Star Trek. Neat. And to me, the thing that made these episodes, like this cartoon, really good compared to other ones is that I felt like they had the proper balance of comedy and action, which is to say it was for the most part comedy. Like, you had your actiony scenes, but the thing about the actiony scenes is that they were still slapstick comedy in the end, right? And, it's been such a long time since I've been able to see a full episode of the show because it's not on TV anymore, and I'm not about to pay $15 to watch it on YouTube for funsies. But, like, for the most part, what I do remember is that the episodes are about Dodgers trying to foil whatever plot the Martian commander, Marvin, was ordered to carry out by Queen Tyranny. Nice pun there on tyranny. Queen Tyranny of Mars to conquer the Earth. But there'll also be some episodes in between where there will be other threats that come along. And ones, like there's an episode where Dodgers worked for a diner. One where he has to unfreeze metal guitarist Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. Weird, but cool. There were a couple of random K9, K-9, that's Marvin's dog. There were a couple of cartoons about him. I don't know if this is a great description of the show. I would love to watch it again, but either way, it's probably my favorite of the bunch. The next show that came out, looking at the chronology, was one that I never watched. Not necessarily because I wouldn't have been interested. Not that I can say, I don't think I would have been, but I just didn't know about the TV segment it was on, which was it was Kids WB, if I remember correctly. I just want to make sure I have... Yeah, no, it was WB... No, wait. No, yeah, it was Kids WB. The logo it just looks kind of strange. But that's beside the point. And in that, on it, there was one Looney Tunes related show. The show after Duck Dodgers was Loonettes Unleashed, which was a show about the descendants of the Looney Tunes that somehow got superpowers and they go around and they save their city. And that's about what I just told you is about the extent I know, and I'm sure there are people who like it, but I'm gonna be honest here. That concept and looking at the art of it just looks kind of dumb to me. To me, these characters are supposed to be about putting a watermelon on their antagonist's head and hitting it with a mallet. They're not about saving the world, necessarily. And I mean, yeah, I talked about how Duck Dodgers was about, him saving the Earth, but it was much more about him comedically saving the Earth as opposed to, having it be even, a semi-serious action series. I mean, I would be down for watching the series to do a review of it, but that's about it. It just, I don't know, it doesn't rub me the right way, at least right now. I'm actually gonna skip one series quick here, because I want to talk about the one after Wit. Look at me, I'm sounding like Elma Fudd. I never watched the most recent series, which is Wabbit, or as it's also called, New Looney Tunes. I don't really have much commentary on them. I have some commentary on the stuff that I have seen, because I've seen some clips, but I've never seen full episodes of the show. Not a huge, oh my goodness, not a huge fan of the art style. I thought that the designs were kind of messy, maybe sloppy is a better word. I look at Bugs' design in it, and he looks so noodly is the word I think of it at. That's the word that I think of. I look at his design, he's just got these super thin noodle-like arms, and I don't like it. I mean, it's kind of like how he was in the original cartoons, but these are just super disproportionate. And then, it's I get it, Porky is a pig, but he's way disproportionately fat. And I mean, to be fair, in his his first cartoons in the 1930s, Porky was a little round pig, but he never looked as fat as he did in the show. It's not fat shaming, although you really should not be fat because it's not good for your health. That's beside the point. I mean, characters like Yosemite Sam looks similarly rounder than he's supposed to be. He's not as bad as Porky, but he doesn't look quite right to me. He doesn't look like Yosemite Sam to me. I did, however, see the show that came out before it, which is the next one we're going to discuss, and I quite enjoyed it, even though it's a totally different direction. That show is The Looney Tunes Show. It was a full 22-minute sitcom-like show that put the Looney Tunes in the modern world, which in theory sounds like a terrible concept. But honestly, the art style and like the spoken jokes were distinctly Looney Tunes. Like they didn't use the classic jokes like, the anvil falling on someone's head. Because that wasn't the point of the show. They didn't have it where where Wile E. Coyote fell off of the cliff. I mean, there were CG Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner segments, but I think they only show up once in the entire main series. I could be wrong on that, but I know for sure they at least show up one time. That just wasn't the point of the show. That wasn't the goal of it. And when looking at it, I just like how many new and different situations the writers could put the characters in, with them still feeling like Bugs. Like Bugs still has that like quippy, snappy way of speaking. And it made the characters feel expanded in a way that they hadn't been before. And I might like it because, like, in that sense, it really reminds me of Duck Dodgers in that a lot of the jokes were between the characters talking, and they were new jokes rather than old jokes. And I don't know if this description makes sense, but I just enjoy it, and I would highly, highly recommend checking out the series. It's not super long. It's only like 2 seasons, if even that. I figure that the last aspect of the Looney Tunes that I want to discuss, though, are the movies, but I've only really seen a couple of them. Like, in fact, I was looking at the list of them, and I've only really seen 3 if you don't include, again, I talked about this concept of a paste-up special before. And those 3 films that I've seen are Looney Tunes, Back in Action, Bah Humduck, and Space Jam. The paste-ups, though, even though I have seen some of them, like Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. I don't really count those or that as like a movie because it's not an entirely original animation. It's mostly old cartoons put into like this context. And while that's great and all, like, it doesn't really make sense to me to call it its own thing. But these 3 movies I've seen at least once, maybe twice, depending. Well, once, maybe twice at least, multiple times depending. So Looney Tunes Back in Action was the first one I mentioned. That was one of my childhood movies, and I know that it's not a great movie. People didn't really like it all that much. Brendan Fraser's the main star, which I know people have like this weird love-hate relationship about Brendan Fraser. It's weird. But I have a lot of nostalgia for the film. It was a certain childhood movie to me, so I will always love it for that. Let's see, in the movie we get to see Bugs and Daffy, both of them played by Joe Alasky. Those, if I don't think of Mel Blanc, those are the voices that I all like. Those are to me, that is Bugs and Daffy. If it's not Mel Blanc, if it's someone else, like they can still be Bugs, it can still be Daffy, but like, I look at like D. Bradley Baker as Daffy. That ain't Daffy. It just sounds way too off to me. The voice is the character. Anyway, Bugs and Daffy follow DJ, who is Brendan Fraser's character. He's an aspiring daredevil. And then we have Kate, who is Jenna Elfman's character. She's a Warner Brothers executive. And they go on a quest to find the Blue Monkey Diamond and save DJ's father, who's played by Timothy Dalton, from Mr. Chairman of the Acme Corporation, who is played by Steve Martin. And the chairman wants to turn the whole population of the world into monkeys using the diamond, other than himself and like one other guy. So you can probably kind of see why a lot of people wouldn't think the movie would be all that great, because it's not all that Looney Tunes. Like, I mean, a bunch of the characters appear in the film, and like they certainly do a bunch of the gags, but it's not like Looney Tunes are not designed to have that sort of plot. Like, they feel like they're kind of tagging along with this actual plot that's going on here, and I do think that like the pair up between Brendan Fraser's character and Jenna Elfman's character is a little bit contrived. The next one I mentioned was Bah Humduck, a Looney Tunes Christmas movie. It is it does kind of lean in that special territory, but it did come out. I feel like, if I remember correctly, it came out on DVD first. So I feel like I can call it a movie. Plus, it literally does call itself a Looney Tunes Christmas. A Looney Tunes Christmas movie. Let me check. I don't want to be. Oh, come on, new tab. I don't want to be sending out misinformation here. No, it's just Bah Humduck, a Looney Tunes Christmas. I apologize. It does not have the word movie in it. You have Joe Alasky once again playing Daffy. Again, to me, he's Daffy. If it isn't Mel Blanc, it's Joe Alasky as Daffy. But Billy West actually took back the role of Bugs. And, I'm just going to keep it short and simple. The movie's basically just a retelling of Charles Dickens' his book, A Christmas Carol. But Daffy is Ebenezer Scrooge. It's a perfectly fine Christmas special. I can't say I would want to watch it every single year as a tradition, but it's a fine movie. All the characters seem like they act like how they should act. I enjoy it. And then the third movie I mentioned is Space Jam, which is actually the movie that I have the least experience with. But I know it has this sudden huge nostalgia again. But I've just never really had the desire to put it on because it's such a strange concept. You have, on the one hand, Looney Tunes, right? Looney Tunes. You got these nice, great characters. On the other hand, you have Michael Jordan and basketball. And I get that it's based on, I want to say they're Nike commercials, but I know obviously they're the Jordans. So it might be for that, but I just want to make sure. No, yeah, they're for Nike commercials, but then I think later on they go on to be for the Air Jordan shoes. So that's how the movie came to be, because it was based on a commercial series. But it's how do you turn that into a film, a full feature-length film? And it's because of that I've never really watched it, because it's not a concept that I am all that interested in taking the time to go get a DVD for it, or God, maybe if it's on some streaming service. The only times I've ever seen it have been when it's on TV, if it just so happens to be on. And I don't have any TV service, so can't really watch it. And it's not to say that in the one or two times I've seen it that I don't like Space Jam, but it's just I'm not super inspired to watch it again. But there is a sequel, apparently. I mean, they've been talking about this for years. There's going to be a sequel. Who knows if it's still actually going to happen. But you know what? I'll go see it. Because, as much as the premise is weird, it is unique. It does have that going for it, in that it's it's strange, but it can't be terrible, can it? So, yeah, that's my personal Looney Tunes retrospective. All we have to do here yet is the conclusion to this very podcast. It's been I went from the shortest episode to the longest episode. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes instead of 1 hour and 10 minutes. Isn't that fun?